Hello my dear children. Nice to meet you with an interesting science lesson. I hope that you are ready for the lesson with your writing book, textbook and the pencil. We have to face many challenges in our lives. The main challenge in your life is your education. So you should have an intention to have a proper education since your childhood. We contribute at our level best to support you in your education. So you also have got a responsibility to continue your education. Today you will have to spend almost a time of 1 hour with this lesson. I am sure that you will be able to learn many things through this lesson. Today our lesson is heat and its effects, that is unit 9 of your textbook. I would like to start the lesson with a nice picture. Let's see. Yes, look at the screen. What can you see on the screen? You can see a nice picture. Everything in the environment is covered with snow. So we can say that it is an extreme cold climate. What is it? Extreme cold climate. Here also there are another two pictures. The first picture is showing you an extreme cold climate. All the things in the environment are covered by snow. But look at the second picture. You can observe that it is an extreme hot climate. It is a desert. You can see the camels are traveling across the desert. There are two different situations, right? Both these situations are created just because of the difference of heat. So you can understand that heat is affecting on many things. Right. Heat is a type of energy which has a great impact on our lives. In some countries, people suffer from extreme cold, and in some countries, people suffer from extreme heat. Let's read it again. Heat is a type of energy which has a great impact on our lives. In some countries, people suffer from extreme cold, and in some countries, people suffer from extreme heat. Again, I have got another two pictures. Look at the pictures. Can you identify? Yes. First picture is showing us a daytime, and the second picture is showing us a night time. During the daytime, you know that all the things in our environment get warm due to the heat of the sun, and during the night time the things in our environment get cool, right? The environment gets heated during the daytime due to sunlight, and it gets cool during the night. This process is directly affecting on the existence of life on the planet. I think you can understand simple English. Right. In a previous lesson, you have learnt about different types of energy. What do you mean by an energy? An energy does not have a mass and it does not occupy a space. There are different types of energy. Now, I am going to summarize that. Light energy, sound energy, magnetic energy, chemical energy, electrical energy and heat energy. Then out of these energy types, we are going to talk about heat energy. Heat is a type of energy. Look at the diagram given on the screen. You can clearly observe that there are two types of energy provided by the sun, light energy and heat energy. The sun gives us two types of energy. Number 1, light energy. Number 2, heat energy. Heat. Right. Now, this is what we discussed now. Heat is a type of energy. our main source of heat is the sun. You already know these things. Heat affects to change the temperature of an object. That's a new word, the temperature. Heat affects to change the temperature of an object. The objects in our environment get warm due to heat, right? Now we know that heat affects to change the temperature. The word temperature is not new to you, right? You know different things about the temperature. Let's talk about temperature. What is the instrument used to measure the temperature, right? Yes, you may have used that instrument and you may have seen that instrument. The instrument is thermometer. What is the instrument? Thermometer, right? Then there are different units used to measure the temperature. Celsius and Fahrenheit. Actually, Celsius and Fahrenheit are known as widely used units. But in addition to Celsius and Fahrenheit, we can use Kelvin. The speciality regarding Kelvin is that is the international unit of measuring temperature. That is the international unit of measuring temperature. We can use Celsius and Fahrenheit to measure the temperature. But the international unit of measuring the temperature is not Celsius or Fahrenheit. That is Kelvin. We denote it as symbol K, capital K. Right. Now I have given you a diagram of a thermometer. You can observe that the thermometer has a glass tube. The thermometers are made of glass. It has a glass tube and the glass tube is calibrated, a calibrated glass tube. At the end of the glass tube there is a bulb. Sometimes the bulb is filled with mercury and sometimes the bulb is filled with alcohol, right? So, the thermometers in which the mercury contains are called as mercury thermometers and the thermometers in which the alcohol contains are called as alcohol thermometers. Okay children, now I have got two types of thermometers to show you, right? You may have seen these thermometers in the lab and you may have used them in the school. They are mercury thermometer and alcohol thermometer. The difference between these two thermometers are alcohol thermometer contains alcohol and mercury thermometer contains mercury. That is the difference. Firstly, let us observe the mercury thermometer. Here you can observe the mercury thermometer. You can observe that this thermometer is made of glass. The glass tube is calibrated according to a scale, right? I can see the scale of Celsius there and you can observe at the end of the thermometer there is a mercury bulb. The bulb is filled with mercury. When you keep this thermometer dipped in a liquid or when it is in contact with a certain surface, this mercury liquid expands and starts to rise up. This mercury liquid is expanding and starts to rise up. According to that level, we can find out the temperature, right? So, that is the way of taking measurements using the mercury thermometer. The liquid which is contained in the thermometer is mercury and you know that mercury is the only liquid metal. Mercury is the only liquid metal. You got that? Good. Now I have got alcohol thermometer. What is it? Alcohol thermometer. What is the color of alcohol? Yes, definitely you will answer me. The color of alcohol is colorless. It has no color, right? But you can see a red color there. Yes, alcohol is colored in red to get clear observations, right? When we use alcohol without coloring, we can't get the clear observations. In order to get clear observations, the alcohol is colored in red color, right? This thermometer is also made of glass and it is calibrated, and the liquid contains inside this thermometer is alcohol, right. I have given you a question. The question is, does everything in our environment get warm equally during the daytime? The question is, read with me, does everything in our environment get warm equally during the daytime? Let's see the answer. The answer is no. The temperature varies from place to place and object to object, right. Now I am going to prove this using a simple activity. Let's see the activity. The activity is measuring temperature at different places. We can select different places and we can record the temperature. Here are the places that are selected by me. Under a large tree, a place there is plenty of sunlight, a pond, a sample of dry soil. You can take a sample of soil from a dry place, and a sample of wet soil. You can get a sample of soil from a muddy puddle, and hot water. Then I have recorded the temperatures at different places. Under a large tree, the temperature recorded is 28 degrees of Celsius, comparatively low value. A place there is plenty of sunlight. This place can be a playground or a place where there is no plant cover. The temperature is comparatively high. The temperature is about 38 degrees of Celsius. And a pond, you can see there is a low temperature, 25 degrees of Celsius. A sample of dry soil, the temperature is about 32 degrees of centigrade. And a sample of wet soil, 28 degrees of Celsius. And hot water, so there is a high temperature, that is 55 degrees of Celsius. So by looking at this table, by looking at these recordings, you have to understand that the temperature shows a variation. There are different places. According to the place, the temperature shows a variation. So that is the conclusion of this activity, right? Let's see the conclusion. Conclusion of the activity. Things in our environment get warm unequally. So the temperature varies from place to place. A very important thing. The things in our environment get warm unequally. They do not get warm equally, they get warm unequally. So the temperature varies. Varies means changes according to the place. It changes from place to place. Right. Here I have given you two types of thermometers. Both are used to measure the body temperature. The normal body temperature of a human being is 37 degrees of Celsius. It is similar to 98.6 degrees of Fahrenheit. Clinical thermometer is used to measure the body temperature. So you saw that there was a mercury thermometer and alcohol thermometer, but we can't use them to measure our body temperature, right? To measure the body temperature, we need a clinical thermometer. I think it is very familiar to you. You may have clinical thermometers at home to measure your body temperature. In these two pictures, I have given you clinical thermometers, right? Here I have given you several instances where clinical thermometers are used, right? Normal clinical thermometer is used in the first picture. A digital one is used in the second picture, and you can see in the last picture there is a special type of thermometer. What is it? Yes, that is infrared thermometer, right? That is widely used at different places these days to get quick recordings on temperature. right? Clinical thermometers, and the last one is infrared thermometer. There are thousands of animal varieties in our environment, right? The animals can be grouped into two according to their ability of controlling the body temperature. The animals can control their body temperature, and there are some animals they can't control their body temperature. Let's see. The animals can be grouped into two: warm-blooded animals and cold-blooded animals. According to their ability of changing their body temperature, we can group them as warm-blooded animals and cold-blooded animals, right? Let's take one by one. Now, I am going to explain you what the warm-blooded animals and what are the cold-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals. Look at the description that I have given you here. These animals keep the body temperature nearly constant though the outside is hot or cold. I think you can understand. These animals keep the body temperature nearly constant though the outside is hot or cold. They have various mechanisms to maintain their body temperature constantly. Right? Indirectly, this is saying that there are certain animals in our environment, they can control their body temperature, whatever the temperature outside. When the temperature is very hot, they have mechanisms to reduce their body temperature. When the temperature outside is very low, they have mechanisms to increase their body temperature. Right? Now, here is a polar bear. You know this animal. It is not living in our country. It is living in extreme cold climates, especially in Arctic regions. There is a story of polar bear. It is saying something. Now let's see what is said by polar bear. It says that I am a polar bear. I have a thick layer of fat under my skin that gives warmth. I am a polar bear. I have a thick layer of fat under my skin that gives warmth. I have a thick layer of fur that gives warmth. As I am living in a very cold climate, I need to maintain my body temperature, so I have a thick layer of fur that gives warmth. Now, let's see, there is a different story said by the camel. Polar bear is living in an extreme cold climate, but the camel is living in an extreme hot climate. The story of camel is totally different from the story of polar bear. Let's see. I am a camel, known as the ship of the desert. You know that the camel is known as the ship of the desert. I have a thin layer of fur to lose heat. Then can you remember the polar bear said that I have a thick layer of fur. Then camel says that I have a thin layer of fur to lose heat as I am living in an extreme hot climate. I need to lose heat. I have a big hump. What do you mean by hump? Hump is a lump of fat that is located on the back of the camel. I have a big hump to store fat and it saves water for me. I am traveling long distances across the deserts, so I need to save my water. So, my hump helps me to save water. Now, you can see these two animals are living in two different environments. They have different mechanisms to maintain their body temperature. It is very important. So, that is the nature of warm-blooded animals. Especially, we consider as mammals and birds as warm-blooded animals. Right. Now, I have given you some pictures of mammals. and birds. The mammals and birds are considered as warm-blooded animals. It does not mean that their blood is warm, right? I think you could understand. Let's move on to the next one. Cold-blooded animals. Some animals get the warmth they need from the air or water around them. Let's read slowly. When it is hot outside, their body temperature rises, and when it is cold, their body temperature drops. The body temperature goes up and down, depends on the temperature around them, right? So, what is said there? So, I am describing about cold-blooded animals. These animals can't maintain their body temperature at a constant level. Their body temperature varies according to the temperature outside, right? When the outside is hot, their body temperature rises, and when the outside is cool, their body temperature drops. So, that is the nature of cold-blooded animals. Here are some examples for cold-blooded animals: various types of fish, reptiles, and here are some examples for fish and amphibians. The amphibians can live both in water as well as on the land. I think the examples are clear. Different types of fish, reptiles, and amphibians. Right. Now, let us see what are the instances where the heat energy of the sun is used. You know, the sun is our main source of providing heat. Now, let us see what are the instances where the heat energy of the sun is used. Let us take one by one. To keep the environment warm, the environment is kept warm due to the heat of the sun. To dry grains, chilies, etc. This is used by past humans. To dry wet clothes, to dry firewood, to evaporate water in solvents. What is the process taking place in a solvent? The sea water is obtained to shallow tanks in a solvent, and water is evaporated using the heat of the sun. That is the process taking place in a solvent. To maintain the water cycle, we call that hydrological cycle, and to cook food and to heat water. Now, these are the instances where we use the heat energy of the sun. Right. I thought that it will be important for you to explain a little about the water cycle. You can observe that here is a simple diagram of a water cycle. Due to the heat energy of the sun, the liquid water is evaporated. The water is evaporated and liquid water becomes water vapor. And water vapor is condensed. So, that is known as condensation, and through the condensation the clouds are formed. From the clouds we get rain, that is denoted by precipitation. So, that is a simple diagram of water cycle. Here I wanted you to explain that the heat energy of the sun is very important to maintain the water cycle. Right. Now, we should know the methods of generating the heat. There are different methods that can be used to generate the heat. Let us see them one by one. Heat is generated by electricity. Then it is generated by solar power. Another method of producing heat is rubbing two dry surfaces together. We can rub two dry surfaces together, then the heat is generated. And by combusting fuels, you already know it, by combusting different types of fuels we can obtain heat. right? By burning firewood, by burning fuel, liquid fuel, solid fuels, we can obtain heat energy by combusting the fuels. Solar stove. Right. Now I have given you a simple diagram of a solar stove. This is a model of a solar stove. This is a model of a solar stove. This is given in unit 4. I am sure that you have made this model in unit 4. I also have got a model of a solar stove with me. Now I am going to show it to you, right? Let us observe. Okay children, here I have got a model of a solar thermal stove. You can see there is a curved surface and the inner surface of this container is fully covered with an aluminium foil. You can observe. This is a model of a solar thermal stove. The inner surface is fully covered by an aluminium foil. Actually this aluminium foil can absorb the heat of the sun, and comparatively the temperature inside this container is high. This is similar to the model, this is similar to the solar thermal stove. This model is describing how a solar thermal stove is working. Solar water heater. I think this is not new to you. You may have seen solar water heaters are connected on the roof of some houses in our country. Solar water heater is used to heat water using the solar energy. The second picture is showing you a solar water heater, but the first picture is showing you a model of a solar water heater. That is showing you a model of a solar water heater. This is given in your textbook as activity 9.3. So, you have to try to make a solar water heater at home. I also have got a model of a solar water heater, and now I am going to show it to you. Let us see. Here is a model of a solar water heater. It demonstrates the action of a solar water heater. You can observe that there is a black cardboard box. Inside the cardboard box there is a PVC tube. A rubber tube is wound around the PVC tube, you can observe, and the rear ends of the rubber tube are taken out from the cardboard box as shown here. I think you can clearly observe it. Then what we can do is we can fix this rear end. This lower end is connected to a tap or a water flow. Then water is allowed to go into the rubber tube, and after that we can get it. We can keep this item in the sun, then we can obtain hot water from this end, right. So, that is the normal process taking place inside this model. This is similar to the action of a solar water heater. We can generate heat by rubbing two surfaces of some substances. The friction created between the surfaces generate heat. Examples: rubbing palms together, rubbing two stones, and rubbing dry sticks. So, we can now we are going to talk about how to generate heat by rubbing substances, right. So, you also can engage in a simple activity. You can take your palms and you can rub your palms in this way, right. You can rub your palms in this way and keep your palms on your cheeks. What do you feel? Yes, you feel a hotness. The reason is rubbing has produced heat. That is the reason. Here I have given you a question. Read the question carefully. We know many instances where heat is produced by rubbing two substances. We know many instances where heat is produced by rubbing two substances. It is sometimes a disadvantage. List out such instances where we consider this as a disadvantage. There are many instances where heat is produced by rubbing two substances. Sometimes it is advantageous and sometimes it is disadvantageous. Now, let us see the instances where this is found as an disadvantage. Occur in forest fire by rubbing dry plants together. I think you know about forest fires or wildfires. They are occurring in the forest by rubbing dry plants together. So, that is a disadvantage. Let us see the second one. Overheating of the parts of machines while rubbing. You know, when the machines are working, the parts are rubbing with each other. It produces the heat, right? This will damage to the machine. Overheating of the parts of the machine while rubbing will damage to the machine. So, those are the disadvantages of production of heat while rubbing. Right, now let us talk about how to generate heat by combusting fuels, right. A substance that can give out heat and light are called as a fuel. There are different types of fuels. Let us see. Solid fuels. Solid fuels are available in solid form. Firewood, sawdust, coal, chaff. Right. Once again, let us read the examples. Solid fuels, firewood, sawdust, coal and chaff. Liquid fuels. The fuels that are available in the form of liquids. Kerosene oil, alcohol, diesel, wine spirit. I know that you know some other answers. Right. There are gaseous fuels also. They are natural gas, LP gas and biogas. We discussed about different methods of generating heat. How to generate heat by solar power, how to generate heat by combusting fossil fuels, how to generate heat by rubbing. Now, we have come to the last point, that is how to generate heat by electricity. I have got a simple activity to show how heat is generated by electricity. Now, let us do the activity. Before that, I am going to explain you. Firstly, I will explain you the activity. After that, I can do the activity. Now, these are the things we need for the activity: a pencil, a copper wire and dry cells. Wind the wire around the pencil overlapping one another. So, you have to be careful when you wind the wire around the pencil, it should be overlapping one another. Connect the cells to the wires. The activity is really simple. Now, I am going to do the activity. Here I have got a copper wire. Now, you can see a copper wire wound around a pencil. The copper wire is wound around the pencil overlapping one another. Here are two wires connected to the clips and the clips are connected to a dry cell. You can observe. Now, what I am going to do is connecting the wires to the ends of the copper coil in this way. These clips are known as crocodile clips. Right. Now, you can observe the two ends of the copper wire are connected to the clips and they are connected to the dry cell. I will wait a few seconds. Then I touch this coil, right. I touch the coil I feel heat in the coil. The coil is heated up. The coil is heated up. That is my observation. When we connect the ends of the copper wire to a dry cell in this way, the copper wire starts heating. The copper wire gets heated up. Then what can you say? What can you conclude through the activity? Actually, we can arrive at a conclusion. Let us see the observation and conclusion of the activity. The observation is the coil is heated. That is the observation. When we connect the ends of the copper coil to the dry cell provided the electricity to the coil, then the coil got heated up. And the conclusion is heat is generated by the electricity. When the electricity is provided to the coil was heated up. The heat is generated by the electricity. You know that there are many electrical appliances found in our home. They are rice cookers, electric heaters, electric irons, electric oven, hot plate, right. The specialty of all these instruments, all these appliances is production of heat. How do they produce heat? They produce heat by the electricity. When the electricity is provided to the appliance is heated up. Most of the electrical appliances that give heat contain a heating coil. Rice cookers, electric heaters, electric iron, hot plate, all these appliances are containing a heating coil. When the heating coil is supplied with electricity, the coil is heated up and then we can get the heat from the appliance. I think you can understand it now. Now, I want to check whether you learned what I taught you, right. I discussed about the heat and I explained you that the heat is a type of energy and what are the methods of producing heat and what are the instances where we obtain heat and what are the instruments where we obtain heat. Then I have given you simple questions. To complete, fill in the blanks. Here I have given you the answers: liquid, thermometer, electrical, fossil fuels and 37 degrees of Celsius. These are my questions. The normal body temperature of a human being is, there is a blank, you have to fill in the blank. We can produce heat even by combusting blank. In room temperature, mercury is in the blank state. Fourth one, there is a blank at the starting point of the sentence is the instrument used to measure temperature. Then heat is generated in blank appliances, right. I am sure that you have got your writing book and the pencil in your hand. Now take 1 minute time to note down the questions and note the answers, right. Now after that I am going to discuss the answers. The normal body temperature of a human being is, what is the normal body temperature of a human being? That is 37 degrees of Celsius. So, we can take it in Fahrenheit, but that is not given as an answer, but you know when it is taken in Fahrenheit it is similar to 98.6. We can produce heat even by combusting blank. What is the answer? Fossil fuels. Fossil fuels. We discussed about that. The fossil fuels can be categorized into 3: solid fuels, liquid fuels and gaseous fuels. Then we can produce heat even by combusting fossil fuels. The answer is fossil fuels. In room temperature, mercury is in the which state. I need to write the state, whether it is a solid, liquid or a gas. You know the state. In room temperature, mercury is in the liquid state, right? Is your answer correct? Yes. You can mark right or wrong. In room temperature, mercury is in the liquid state. We know that mercury is the only liquid metal in the world. Have a look at fourth one. Is the instrument used to measure the temperature? You all know the answer. An easy question. What is the answer? Thermometer. Thermometer. Thermometer is the instrument used to measure the temperature. Heat is generated in which appliances? Right? What is the remaining answer? Electrical. Heat is generated in electrical appliances. Right? Now, the sentences are complete. Let's read them once again. The normal body temperature of a human being is 37 degrees of Celsius, and we can produce heat even by combusting fossil fuels. In room temperature, mercury is in the liquid state. Thermometer is the instrument used to measure the temperature. So, write capital T there when you are writing thermometer. Heat is generated in electrical appliances. Right, now we have completed that assignment. Now, I have come to the summary of the lesson. Now, I am going to summarize what we learned. Actually, I covered up the first part of this unit. Here are the things I discussed with you. Heat is needed for the existence of life and for various phenomena take place in the environment. You know that occur in day and night, and there are different types of phenomena like water cycle. Then they are affected by heat. Heat is needed for the existence of life and for various phenomena to take place in the environment. Then we learnt that the main source of heat is the sun. The sun is the main source of providing heat to the earth. We can obtain heat from various methods. I think you can remember we discussed about different methods of obtaining heat: by combusting fossil fuels, by solar power, by rubbing two substances together, and finally by electricity. Right, those are the methods of obtaining heat. Heat can be obtained from electricity. So, we did an activity, I think you all can remember it. Heat can be obtained from electricity. Now, those are the things we discussed during the lesson. I am sure that you could learn many things through the lesson. Okay, children. Today, I covered up the first part of Unit 9, Heat and its effects. I am sure that you could learn many things through the lesson. And frequently you can read your textbook and you can prepare your short notes. If you have got any doubt, you can ask from your teacher. And on the next day, I hope to do the second part of the lesson. Thank you very much for joining with the lesson. Be safe and goodbye.